Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I am Dr. Robin McKay, and this is our Facebook Live, where we're going to be talking today about 3 things you must have in order to confidently attract corporate clients into your service-based business. And I'm going to let us get started. Hey, Steph, how are you? Nice to see you here for a second. I forgot my coffee's just right over there. I'm going to grab that and give people a chance to gather here. So give me just a second. If you are watching live, by the way, I'd love to hear from you with some likes or hearts or something like that, just to give me some feedback to let me know that you're here. Hey, Anita, nice to see you. I'm getting my coffee. You know, for those of you who have been around Sheology for any period of time, Kelly Harkins is here too. I love you and your sister Amy. So fun. For those of you who have been around for any period of time, watching me develop my business, you'll know that I started out in corporate, right out of college actually, and I'm very familiar with the corporate culture. Hey, Kim Baker, nice to see you too. Was in corporate for about altogether probably around 20 years by the time I left to start my own consulting business. And early in my consulting business, I really worked with entrepreneurs who had left corporate and wanted to start their businesses, which was basically what I had done not too long before that. And quite successfully, I might add. But in the last, I've been in my business about 6 years, since 2013, really effectively. And since then, I've really shifted in the last couple of years away from working with entrepreneurs. I still do work with a small but mighty group of entrepreneurs, but for the most part, I've really shifted the focus of my own consulting business into working with corporate women, and specifically those who are in tech and healthcare, those engineers and physicians who get burned out, who are struggling with hitting the glass ceiling and things like that. They'll come to me and we'll work through those issues, and they'll go off and running with their lives. So recently, I made a decision that I was going to do something that I've never done before, which is to teach you guys my method of corporate client attraction. And I think that even as you start watching the posts that I make in our corporate client attraction Facebook group and start listening to these trainings, and for those of you who are going to be taking the corporate client attraction method beta class that's coming up here at the end of the month, you'll really start to see how different my methodology is when you look around the marketplace to who else is teaching this stuff. So we'll get into that in just a minute. But I'm going to grab my notes. Let's see who else is here. Kim Baker's here, Anita, Jackson, I love seeing, and Melanie's here, awesome. I love seeing all of these women who are wanting to learn more about attracting corporate clients into their businesses. So let me just jump in here and get started. Okie dokie. So first of all, let's see, who's this training for? I actually have notes. Sometimes I don't speak with notes, but I thought I would bring these in today to help keep me sorted. So the training is for coaches and consultants who are really tired of the hustle and grind of the online marketplace. You're tired of feeling invisible. You're really tired of feeling like you're talking to the wrong group of people and frustrated because you know you have something valuable to offer. You know you're really a rock star at what you do. And yet the people that you're talking to might need your programs and services, but they don't necessarily want your programs and services, or even know that they need your programs and services. And you really want to create another stream of income in your business that makes sense given what your experience is, what your expertise is, and bring it all together into one package for a group of people who are eager to purchase programs and services that reflect your wisdom and experience. So give me hands up if that's you. And then the other group of women that this is for women who are actually still working in corporate, who have this aspiration or desire to move out of a corporate job and into the corporate consulting role. And so either one of those folks, if you're one of those folks, you're in the right place. So give me hands up if that sounds like you. Okay, so why should you listen to me? Well, I already talked about that a little bit, but I spent 20 years in corporate myself, and I've been working with women in corporate for the last 6 years. Actually, it's somewhere between 6 and 9 years. I think I started doing corporate team building back when I was still in graduate school, back in like 2007. I think I did my first corporate team build. So I've been doing this stuff a long time, and really have added hundreds of thousands of dollars to my business revenue working with this particular group of people who are just so eager to work with somebody who they can relate to, and somebody who has this wisdom and knowledge and experience that I do, and they actually use to be able to transform their own lives and their own careers. So that's why listen to me. Plus I'm kind of funny sometimes. Oh, come on, honk if you agree with that, Kim Baker. Okay, so these are the things that we're going to talk about today that you need if you're going to confidently attract corporate clients into your business. One is that you have to believe that it's actually possible for you to attract corporate clients. And I say this with all seriousness and with all candor, because I think a lot of times the number one question that I get when it comes to attracting corporate clients is, how do I do that? And that how question actually comes from a sense of corporate is this big black behemoth of buildings, and it's insular and it's really hard to get in, and there are all of these myths and lore around getting into corporate, how hard it is, how long it takes, how you've got to know the right people. And I even experienced that a little bit myself when I was getting started with this, but quickly overcame that and have been working with clients from Nike and Intel and Honeywell and Boeing and all of these really major organizations around the world very easily and effortlessly. So the first thing you really need to do is to shift your mindset and really take a stand that you're going to choose to believe that it's easy for you to find corporate clients and to work with them. Okay, that's number one. And the thing I'll say about that is, and this is really where my teaching diverts from what's being taught in the marketplace right now, is that I'm in my programs, and what you're going to be hearing from me now and in the future is not go out and get a big $100,000 or $1 million corporate contract. I'm just not going to teach that at this point. And the reason that I'm not is because those contracts and those projects take a while to develop, to cultivate. And as you know, corporate moves at a snail's pace, especially compared to how we in entrepreneurship move. We move at lightning fast speeds. And so to develop one of those contracts can take a while to do. So I'm not going to be teaching that. Instead, I have actually really been teaching, and I want you to pay attention to this, teaching that when I talk about getting corporate clients, I'm actually not talking about getting those big corporate contracts. I'm talking about working with human beings who have corporate positions. You see what I did there? I went from the big, massive meta level of corporate contracts and that sort of thing into the micro, or the individual, which is working with people who have corporate jobs. And there are a couple of reasons that you want to do that. One is, and this is really important, especially if you're going in and looking for people who are working in corporate, you want to find people who have regular incomes, they get bonuses, they have cash reserves to invest in themselves and their professions and their careers. And they really are eager to continue personal and professional development. They want to better themselves. They want to accelerate their careers. And it's people like you and me who can help them, who have that sort of magic elixir that we've learned out here in entrepreneur land that we can bring back to them and really help and support them as they continue their journey in the corporate setting. So isn't that cool to know and a relief? Give me hands up if you appreciate knowing that. You don't have to go out and find a $100,000 corporate contract immediately. Obviously, that's something that is something to put on the desires list if that lights you up, and that's something that I talk about with my private clients. But in this first corporate client attraction methods beta class, we're not going to focus on that. So believe that you can find one-on-one corporate clients. That's number one thing that you need. The second thing that you need is you need to have a personal brand that's in alignment with the corporate vibe. And what I mean by that is, so, I've been around entrepreneur land for a really long time, and women coaches and consultants have a sort of vibe, especially when we're working with other entrepreneurs on business coaching, health coaching, and that sort of thing. And we speak a certain language, and we use words like up-leveling, for example. And give me some other words that you hear kind of in the native language of entrepreneurs, right? Like lightning fast and pivot and all of these words that we use regularly. Well, corporate folks don't use that language, and they especially aren't, if they are spiritual, we're everyone's spiritual beings, let's face it, but if they are on a spiritual journey, they're not going to be out necessarily about that spiritual journey. So any kind of, I'm going to just be really, me, I say what I think. So any kind of touchy-feely language, any kind of woo-woo language, if you're using it in, a tremendous amount, you're going to want to tone that back. You're going to actually want to shift, basically code switch, so that they know that you're talking to them without actually saying the words that you usually use if you're talking to entrepreneurs. So for example, in my own consulting practice with high achieving women leaders in STEM and medicine, one of the things that I say is I work with high IQ and high EQ leaders. And EQ, emotional intelligence, is a phrase that is being used more and more in corporate. Now, I know what that means to me because I've seen the results of their psychological assessments that I give them when they come in. But these women who I work with are highly intuitive. But I don't use the word intuitive in my marketing. Or if I do, I use it very sparingly, and I don't call them intuitive. I call them high EQ. Does that make sense? So you just want to change your language and your branding in order to align with kind of the corporate culture so that your people can actually hear you and know that you're there for them. I was at an event recently at Intel. I was doing a corporate lunch and learn for high-level women leaders, and that's a story for another time. But when I was there, a new client found me during that particular lunch and learn, and she said to me later, she said, I just knew you were there for me. You said a couple of words that really made me understand that you were there for me. And one of those words or phrases was emotional intelligence. She just knew that was for her. So I didn't have to, and she is highly intuitive, by the way, and she is highly spiritual, by the way, but I didn't have to use that overt language in order to tell her I was there for her. All right, so shifting your brand in order to align with the corporate culture is an important piece that you need if you want to attract clients from corporate with confidence and ease. And then the last thing you need to do, if you've been in entrepreneurship for any period of time, you've worked on your ideal client avatar or ideal client profile. So you may have even given her a name, an age, all of those things that we're trained to do as entrepreneurs to know who we're talking to in the marketplace. Well, a couple of things about that. If you've spent any amount of time doing that, you may not have focused that specifically on corporate, women in corporate, or people in corporate. So you need to shift. And I actually call this role the brand hero. The brand hero is the person who you're looking for, who is going to come in and work with you in your business. So the brand hero is your ideal client avatar, and you've got to shift that brand hero to really align with the person who's in corporate who you want to work with. So there are just some tweaks to your ideal client avatar that you're going to want to make. And specifically, the way that you're going to do that, I hear some of you asking, like, how do I do that? How do I know? Excuse me for a second. The way that you do that is that you look around your LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn network, you look around Facebook, you make a list of people who have corporate jobs who you think it'd be pretty cool to work with. And you go and profile them. You can do market research with them. You can kind of track them down and tell them what you're up to and ask them if you can interview them. But you do your homework, you do your market research so that you really know your corporate brand hero. And then you have what it takes to be able to go out into the online marketplace and LinkedIn and to some degree in Facebook, and into your community, into the companies that are in your town, in your city, in your country, and do lunch and learns and do live trainings specifically for this type of person, for your brand hero. Right? So those are the 3 things that you need. And we have some time. I'm going to review them in just a second, but I wanted to just open up for questions right now. So if you have a question around how to confidently attract your specific corporate brand hero, write them in the comments, and let's answer some questions if you've got any questions or any ahas that you've had as you listen to this training today. So again, the 3 things are: you have to believe that there's a way for you to easily find your clients in the corporate world. You have to have a personal brand that's in alignment with the corporate culture. And you have to have a corporate brand hero, which is basically your ideal client avatar that's aligned with corporate. So those are the 3 things. There are other things that you need, but those for sure you've got to have. Okie dokie. I'm going to scroll through here and see. Kim Baker raised her hand a while ago. Some of these comments weren't scrolling when I was on. Okie doke. So let's, the last thing I want to do today, and please, if you have any questions, and if you're listening to the recording and you've got questions, write them in and I will answer them either in the comment section, or I'm going to be doing some additional trainings next week. So you might get your questions answered live on Facebook Live. So let's talk a little bit about this corporate client attraction method that I'm going to be offering starting in a couple weeks. This is a beta class, and what does that mean? It means that what I've basically done is downloaded from my brain onto paper and electronically, obviously, everything that I've done over the years to attract a huge number of corporate clients that are perfect for me. In fact, I would say at this point in my career, I've got more best clients than I've ever had before. Excuse me. Wow. Okay. So I've kind of honed this to a science in terms of what I've been doing to attract corporate clients, and I want to teach that to you. So this program it's an 8-module program. I have weekly office hours where you actually come into my office hours as a community, and we workshop your corporate brand. We workshop, including your tagline. We workshop your corporate brand hero, right? We workshop your messaging. What's the big message that you're going to be sending to these corporate people? I start teaching you how to do really good market research that can lead to thousands and thousands of dollars added to your revenue streams. Really, in fact, market research, I'm a scientist in my heart. I've been a scientist since I was a little girl, and a social scientist in my PhD in psychology. And for me, as an entrepreneur, the market research piece is major, and it's something that isn't taught particularly well in our industry. And with my background as a social scientist, this is something that is really unique that I bring into this work with the corporate client attraction method, and help you guys design really strong market research that allows you to really dive deep into understanding the people who you're designed to work with in corporate. So we do that. There's a component on designing and pricing your programs and services to align with what corporate people want and need. And that includes, one of my favorite things to do is to do private intensives with corporate clients. So one-on-one, anywhere between 3 hours and 6 hours of one-on-one time with a corporate client is a really powerful, transformative process. And I love teaching that, and I love doing those. So that's going to be part of the training as well. And also having sales conversations with them. So my science of sales conversations is pretty basic, but it moves fast. And usually my close rate on a client who's ideal with me, I can close within about 30 minutes on the phone. While they're still on the phone, they are enrolling in my program. So there's no long time waiting. There's no bunch of phone calls. It just is a very simple process of getting to the heart of the matter, assessing if they're right for the program, and getting them enrolled in the program. And that's the kind of training that I do for you too. That's why I say it doesn't have to take 3 months or 6 months of cultivating relationships with people in corporate before you can enroll them in your programs. When you know, you know. And the cool thing about working with people in corporate, of course, is that they are fast decision makers, and they are empowered to make financial decisions for themselves. And that is one of the most freeing things, I think, about working with people in corporate. And so I want to transmit and teach you guys that as well, so you can get this up and running for yourself. Because listen, the truth is that people in corporate need us. They're burned out. They're hitting glass ceilings. They're struggling with their weight. They're struggling with their health. I just read an article recently on women and menopause, and how menopause is like this unspoken factor in performance for women, and nobody's really doing anything about it. So if you're somebody who works with women on hormone issues, on focus, concentration, brain fog, belly fat, anything like that, I mean, your people are right there in corporate. And in fact, I would even say that right now you could scroll through your LinkedIn profile and find people that you personally know, who you have worked with in the past, who are ready to work with you now, worked with professionally in the past, who are ready to work with you right now with your new skill set and the new stuff that you're doing in your work. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going into corporate client attraction method, the beta version. And I want to invite you to be part of that. It is eventually going to be sold at about $2,000. And right now I think we've got it priced at $797. And I've got a special $100 off for the people in this community, because I love you and I want you to be part of this. And I want you to help me co-create what will become this global movement of teaching people like you guys how to really quickly and confidently attract corporate clients into your businesses. So with that, if that's something that lights you up and you want to know more about, what I want you to do, I want you to PM me and tell me that you want to fill out an application for that particular beta group. And we'll get you the application sent over along with the details of the course. If you're a good fit, we'll send you the details of the course, and then we'll get you enrolled, because it's going to be awesome and fun and engaging, and most importantly, it's going to get you really moving forward on this very important work of serving people who are working in the corporate world. And there's lots of them. All right, let me scroll through here. I just was a talking head. Let me see if there's any. Okay. Are they paying you? Okay, Joe asks, are they paying you, or will the company they work? Okay, that's a great question. So my clients, this is the coolest part about doing this one-on-one stuff with people who work in corporate. They're paying out of their own pockets to work with me. And the way that I've framed it in my business, and this might be helpful to all of you, is that one of the things that slows down decision-making is when they say, well, I'll see if my company will pay for it. And the way that I've managed that in my business is that I I just basically say, listen, the people who work best with me are decision makers who are willing and able to invest their own resources in their futures. And then they're happy if their companies reimburse them, but they don't depend on their organizations to do anything for them. They've really taken full responsibility for their own futures. And in so doing, they're willing to lay down their own credit cards to pay for their coaching. That's empowering to them, and it speeds up the process as well. And I've had like high level women say to me, well, I want to work with you, but I'm going to see if my company will pay for it. And, I say to them, like, what happens if you go to your CEO and he or she says, you know what? No, we're not paying for that. What message does that send you about how your company feels about you and your professional development? And I've seen women, again, at very high levels, try to take that approach, and almost inevitably, it brings the process to a complete halt. My take on that is that if somebody is like saying, I want somebody else to pay for this, it's not about the money, it's about where your responsibility for your career lies. Are you relying on an organization to make sure that you get ahead, to make sure that you're at your best? Or are you relying on yourself and your own resources to do so? So that's one of the things that I talk about in depth in the corporate client attraction method. It's something that is such an important question to ask. Let me give you another example. A client working with a very, very well-known shoe company reached out to me after she had finished a major project, and she was super burned out, and she just basically said, I have to work with you because I want to continue to be innovative. I want to be a vice president eventually. She was at a director level. And she said, I'm burned out. So she hired me privately and went to her boss and said, hey, I hired this person. Would our company be willing to pay for it? Well, the company came back like weeks later and said, you know what? We want you to go through our coaching first. This was, and literally weeks later. So if you could imagine, she had already been coaching with me for a couple of months at that point when they finally came back and gave her an option to work with some coaches who had been already, who were in the company system. She would have been 2 months further along in her burnout, 2 months further away from what her goals were. And so she ended up doing that coaching because it was paid for by her company, but she actually paid me a 5-figure coaching fee to be able to work with me first. And she's very happy that she did that. She's moving forward. So those are the things that can happen. And that's why I really stay focused on let's just keep coming back to the individual and identifying those individuals who are eager and willing to invest their own resources in their own future through you. Okay. Let me see if there's any other question. Hopefully that was helpful. And Joe asks one more question, which is, does this work better face-to-face, or I do Skype? I do. Most of my sessions are on phone. For me, it doesn't matter. I am highly intuitive. I work behind the scenes. I work in the Akashic records all the time, and it really doesn't matter if I'm in person or on the phone. In fact, it's a little bit more. It's a little bit easier when I'm on the phone because I don't have the personality sitting in front of me as well. I just get the pure energy from it, from the spirit of the person when I'm doing that work. But I love seeing my clients in person as well. I was out in San Diego a couple weeks ago, and one of my clients out there came and met me for her intensive. So it's really a hybrid, a mix between in person and on the phone. In fact, I have a client coming over in a little while to work with me privately for a couple of hours in person on doing her business development. She's somebody who's in corporate, who's making the leap into corporate consulting. And so we're going to sit down together, shoulder to shoulder, and do that work today. Okie dokie, Smokies. So let's see, let's do some action steps. What's one thing that you can do today to set yourself up for success? Oh, Joe, you know what? I don't even bother getting set up as an in-house coach. I haven't even gone down that path. That seems to me, Joe asks, do I coach people to get contracts with companies to be set up as an in-house coach? I just really haven't gone down that path at all. I want the freedom of being able to coach who I want. And, there are probably some advantages of being an in-house coach, but for me, it's never been something that at this point, and I've been doing this for 6 years, it's never been something that I've really focused on. If I focused on it and really wanted it, I'm sure I could make that happen because I know that I could, but it just isn't something that lights me up at all. What I am looking at doing is developing private label coaching for organizations, and that's further along in my pipeline. Where most people are, where I advise everyone to start is finding one-on-one human beings who are corporate employees and working with them first, because they become your point of entry into these bigger contracts. So when I, for example, I did a corporate training with the Society of Women Engineers. I had a couple of clients come out of that particular training that I did for low cost. I think probably the Society of Women Engineers either pays me a stipend or they pay for my travel. That's how their system is set up, and that's fine. I love the Society of Women Engineers, and I've kind of become the go-to person for women engineers in terms of burnout and career acceleration. So I'll do that. But then those people are at Caterpillar and they're at Boeing and they're at Honeywell, and they're the ones who are saying, hey, Robin, can you come in and do a lunch and learn in my company? And that's where I get exposure to more human beings who are working at organizations. So that system is all the same. It's like find the individual, then the individual is a point of entry into wider exposure within the organization. Okay, so with that, we're gonna wrap things up here. I am so excited to be working with you guys and to start teaching you guys this. So tangible thing. So the first tangible thing that I think that you could do today is to up-level your LinkedIn profile and to really take a look, just to polish it, to make sure you've got an image of yourself in your profile picture that is in the tone of corporate. If you go to my LinkedIn profile, I'm Robin McKay, #1 on LinkedIn. You'll see that I've got a beautiful shot of me in my pink button-down Oxford and my pearls. It's very corporate, and I love that. It just makes me so happy. And then my banner picture is of me leading a group of women at a conference everybody's got their hands up. So I'm sure the image is very dynamic, right? That it's not just, I don't just do talking, I actually do interactions with my people. So just take a look. If you want to do some homework, go to my LinkedIn profile, connect with me, make a connection with me, and you'll see as you make a connection, my process of connecting in with people on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is one of the major resources for us for working in corporate. And that's part of what I teach also in the corporate client attraction method. All right, so do that today. Go over, check out my LinkedIn. Take a look at what I've done there with my headline, with the information about who I am and who I serve, and then up-level your image, your profile image and your banner image to reflect the message that you're ready, willing, and able to support women who are in corporate. All right. Ciao, ciao for now, and we'll be back, and I'm looking forward to getting requests for your application for the corporate client attraction method, and we'll see you in the coming days and weeks.